Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
All right. Hey, guys. Welcome back to our show. I'm your host, John Harcar, and I'm here today with Bryan Carlson. And what we're going to talk about is real estate journey, but more importantly, the importance of having a good inspection team within your real estate business. Remember, guys, at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, really all real estate entrepreneurs 2 to 5x their business by providing the tools and resources to grow the business they want to grow, which in turn helps them live the life they want to live. Bryan, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Went and listened to a couple episodes. It's a pretty entertaining show, and it's got some good information.
Awesome. And I'm excited to talk about your journey and what we talked about before we got on here, and dive a little bit more into the inspection part. But before we do all that, if you can, just tell our audience a little bit about you, kind of your background in real estate, what got you here.
Absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, like I said, I run a home inspection company. That's kind of my main entrance to real estate. But I started as a general contractor building houses, like a lot of guys kind of just go into that field. And I kind of had a really neat, maybe not experience, but I'm a little bit ADHD, John, and I kind of tend to bounce around a little bit. And so when I started construction, I started framing houses, and then I did concrete, then I did plumbing, then I did roofing, then I did, and I kind of just went through everything, ended up being an equipment operator. And then I went and decided I wanted to be out of the construction field, and I went and got jobs doing construction sales. I worked for Heatolator fireplaces for a few years, and some of these other companies that are kind of bigger and out there, and sold those products. And that was fun, but I'm just a hands-on guy. I like to get out there. I like to get in it. There's different types of people for everything. And it's funny, people want to talk to me about real estate investing and how to get into these properties. And I'm a great one to talk to, mostly about brick and mortar though. Like when guys are trying to run all the numbers, I have a team of guys that helps me do all that stuff. I don't do that. I'm the guy out there physically at the property. And that's something that's really important to have. And that kind of background where I was a little bit all over the place truly helps me in the inspection world. I mean, I spent 5 years working for a large commercial contractor building large commercial buildings, including multifamily. So I've just been involved from the dirt to the finished product. And so it just kind of gives me that edge when it comes to looking at a building. I mean, I very seldom do I run into somebody who's got as much knowledge as I do when it comes to actual buildings and properties.
Well, and you're getting the real world hands-on, the true way to learn, not like.
Yep.
Let's go back a little bit. Before you got into being a GC and stuff, have you always been interested in real estate? Have you had any family influences or, anything in real estate that kind of guided you or led you there?
Actually, not even a little bit. Quite the opposite. My wife and I both come from families they bought a house and that was it, And so, no, in fact, I remember when I went to buy my first duplex, everybody was like, man, you're crazy. You're going to lose everything. I knew a guy who did that. And now he's lives in the ditch. He's homeless. All those horror stories.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
And so, no, I actually did not grow up thinking any of those things. In fact, I had different businesses that I've run, as we kind of talked about. I mean, I purchased a home, I bought a townhome, I bought a house, those kind of things. But no, I was not. It was something that other people did. And so then one day, like I said, when we started the home inspection business, that was doing really well. And I had just inspected this duplex, and it's funny, I still own this. This is, about 12 years ago, 11 years ago. And I bought this duplex. So I ended up buying it, right? I did a home inspection for the people, and I was like, hey, this thing is pretty rough. Maybe we ought to consider doing a meth test. So in my area there, we get a lot of methamphetamines, right? And that's one of the only drugs that can leave residues in the house that we test for. And in our state, we have some very low standards. And so I suggest a meth test. We do the meth test. It comes back positive. The people decide they just don't want to deal with it, and they walk. And the realtor who was double siding it, so this is a realtor who's representing the buyer and the seller.
Right.
She says to me, Brian, I don't even know what to do with this property. She goes, are you interested in it? And I was like, well, I inspected it. I know what it needs. I've been thinking about doing something like this. And so I said, if you guys take off this much money, so I can take care of the meth, sure. And they just said yes. And it was like, oh, crap. And then I had to go home and tell my wife, honey, I just bought a duplex. And so she was pretty not willing to participate because I only had enough money for my 20% down payment, John. And this building needed about $35,000 worth of renovations. And so I kind of, and again, it's very much out there. And I like sharing this story because there's people who want to try it and they're just like, man, I don't understand. You're like, yeah, it was hard. I maxed out my Home Depot credit card. I maxed out a Lowe's credit card, an Ace Hardware. I mean, I really worked hard to get this building put back together, get it rented. And this is where it gets really funny, John. Well, and I probably ought to quantify. So I really like what Dave Ramsey teaches. So my wife and I had bought a home many years ago, 17 years to be exact. I'm still in the same home, and we paid it off in the first 5 years.
Yeah. And
so I had this home paid for, and so that was why I had saved money to buy the duplex. I'm not a rich guy. I work for a living. I do well, but I do have to work for it. So anyway, so we get this property I'm flipping it. I'm working home inspections all day long, and then at nights and on weekends, I'm getting this house put back together. In the middle of that, I get an opportunity to buy a 12-plex that comes with another house. And I'm like, okay, I don't really have money, but I got this house that's paid for, right? And so this is where my journey is kind of, you hear these people talk about doing all these different investments, and I've kind of had a little taste of all of it, So I used a HELOC on my house to get my 20% down for that 12-plex. I got my first commercial loan. It took me about 8 months to get financing on that property, and the most patient seller on earth to just let me deal with that, right? And so we were able to get it. So I hadn't even finished the first duplex that I bought. I'm still renovating it, and I'm under contract and purchasing a 12-plex. And so I kind of just had some cool opportunities, and I just jumped in with both feet.
I think that's important, for our audience to hear, because a lot of people are hesitant and stay on the sidelines too long instead of jumping in. I mean, for you, I know you had experience in all this, so maybe going in and doing some of these renovations wasn't a really big thing for you, but what kind of mindset, right, do you need to make that switch to say, hey, I'm just going to go after these things?
Actually, and that's another really good question. It's a scarcity mindset, John. I mean, I don't know how else to say it other than I put a lot of time thinking about it, and I have a couple of friends who are, and they're just like, how did you pull this up? And it's a scarcity mindset. I realize in my profession, and a lot of the people, this is kind of speaking in the real estate world a little bit, right? Because the realtors, if you're not out there showing a house, you're not making a paycheck. right? And if I'm not out inspecting a house, I'm not making a paycheck, or if my people are not out, right?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
And so that real estate, that is a way to have something there when you're not at work, you know? And it's funny, I actually call this, and I don't know if you've ever heard of this. I don't think I invented this idea, but I have a friend of mine. In fact, I might introduce Robert Brown. He's a broker for a big real estate brokerage here in Cache Valley, Utah.
Okay.
Very, very good personal friend as well. But he and I call this, because we've had a lot of conversations, we call it the get rich slow scheme, right? We've all heard of get rich quick schemes.
Right.
This is the get rich slow scheme. It takes you 20 years.
I think I've heard that. I think I've heard that. For some
Yeah.
reason, the slow part really is ringing a bell. Explain it to me. Explain it
Yep.
to our audience.
Yeah, for sure. So get rich slow is what real so yes, there's always somebody, we can always hear about somebody who got rich quick with some sort of thing. Real estate is not that. Now, you can make money. Like, for example, I talked about that 12-plex that I bought. I owned that for 2 years. I paid around, and again, my market is a very different market. It is what it is, Northern Utah. I paid $500,000 for this thing, and it was a Section 8 building. It was rough. And so we ended up owning it for 2 years, did a bunch of work to it, and ended up selling it for $1.5 million. And so that was like, now that's a lot of money, right? Like, that's an impressive turnover. That's
Sure.
not rich by any means, but that's a big profit to turn.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's why it's get rich slow. You know, in fact, that very first duplex that I bought in 2000 and I want to say 13, I think is when I bought it, was 2013, that very, very first investment property. I have that on the market right now, and I'm going to turn a good profit on it. It's about paid for at this point. And only reason I'm selling it is because it's actually able to pay off 100% of my other debt. And so now that, again, I'm still not rich, but owning a house and a couple of investment properties that are all free and clear, that's pretty rich compared to the world.
Yeah, compared to a lot of people in this world, that's 100% sure.
Yeah. And so that's where it's been the scarcity mentality. You know, I drove not a nice car. I did not have a nice truck. I did it the hard way, you know, and it's a lot of, I mean, I had investment properties and flip houses that were nicer than my home, you know, and so I kind of waited until I had done a bunch of stuff before I did my own home and made it nice.
Nice.
And so, and I feel like that's that scarcity mentality coming back, right, with get rich slow.
I love that. So what do you think are some of the challenges that you faced in your beginning, right? When you're starting, you're buying this 12-plex. I know you mentioned, you know, you got the meth, you have to probably remediate all that kind of stuff. I mean, what other challenges did you come across just as a business owner, maybe, you know, starting to get out and do all this on your own and keep it successful and consistent?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the same things that a lot of people run into in this exact scenario is the financing, the capital. How do you come up with money? You just put your 20, well, and sometimes different financing, you can get different amounts down. And that's where, again, that's not my area of strength. I have chosen, as I've kind of learned about this, I put down about 20%. Sometimes 20, if I can afford it, I will put 25% down. And so that just makes sure I don't have the mortgage insurance. There's a lot of different little nuances in this kind of world where you have to learn. Now, the struggles is, again, coming up with the money and then learning things like mortgage insurance. That's expensive. And when you're trying to, on a rental, you learn, you just have to really, you got to run things lean. You know, when I first started, well, and I'll even tell you, this is, so not necessarily a struggle, but a lesson that I had to learn. And I feel like it was a little bit of a hard lesson. You can over improve your properties, right? And a lot of people come in and they're like, oh, this is so cute, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. You can't do that. You're over improving it. And I realized there's also, this is just some things that I've learned. Like, this is not gospel. I always like to kind of put that out there, but I feel like there's two kinds of renters. There is the renter who is just a stepping stone before they buy their house or they build their house or they're moving here or they moved here for 6 months and they're going to go back.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
There's that kind of a renter who's a great renter. And then there's some folks who are just like lifetime renters. They'll never own a property. They don't ever want to fix anything. They're never going to take care of a property the way a homeowner would. And so that's what you're a lot of times dealing with your rental. So I have a duplex on the west side of town here where I live in Logan, Utah. Beautiful place. We fixed this place up absolutely spectacular. I literally jackhammered out the concrete slab in the basement to redo the subterranean plumbing. I mean, every inch of it was built in the 40s. It was we also hear the horror stories of the disgusting meth houses where everybody says, oh, we need to bulldoze that. Right. So this was one of those. I rebuilt it completely and it's gorgeous. And this was the tenant that was living there when I bought it would literally put his cigarettes out on the wall. Like he'd walk down the hall and just put a cigarette on the wall. He'd put the cigarette out on the vanity next to the toilet when he's sitting there on the toilet. The day that I saw it, he had a skillet with some eggs on the stove and 3 cigarette butts that had been put out in the middle of the stove. Wow. So pretty rough, distressed property, and yeah. I absolutely rebuilt it to brand new condition, had it permitted, inspected. And that was actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. You talked about some of the hardships, right? The hardship was working 10, 12 hours a day at my business and then going and working another 8 hours at night flipping a house. That was the real struggle. So I did that several times. I flipped them by myself. Now, I would hire an electrician most of the time because that's and even plumbing a lot of the time I would hire out and then do virtually everything else myself. Yeah. And then that house, the duplex that we were just talking about, where I did a complete renovation, that was the first one where I had enough capital to where I bought it, flipped it, and paid for everything without having to do it myself, without having to be leveraged out. I just had it. I kind of had worked myself to a point where I just had enough money to do it. Got it. Right? Got it. And so that's kind of like that goal. And again, it goes back to the scarcity mindset, right? Mm-hmm. I flipped this. I bought a 900 square foot house for 50 grand. And like, I remember because I like to help people. I truly want everybody to do what I've done, or maybe not necessarily the way that I've done it, but I want people to be successful. And so I have this opportunity. It's a seller finance. It's $50,000. It's 900 square feet. There's like nothing. This is easy. 1 bathroom. So I hit all my friends. Hey, you need to buy this house. This is an easy flip. You're going to make money. And I had 4 of my friends go look at it. And every one of them was like, dude, you're a moron. This thing just needs to be bulldozed and started over. And again, I hauled off out of the 900 square foot house and the quarter-acre lot. I hauled 7 40-yard dumpsters of crap out of there. That's a lot of junk. Without demolishing the house. That was just garbage.
A lot of junk.
Their only bathroom, the toilet, and then the sewer pipe were about this far apart. So the water would fall out of the bottom of the toilet and then mostly hit the sewer pipe. So, and I just kind of referenced that for how bad this house was. I put in about $70,000 to flip this house, and a lot of my work. I did everything, and I sold it for almost $200,000. So it was just a great profit, And now, so then I got handed that 70 grand, right, or the 60 grand. Well, I didn't spend it. I didn't go buy a new truck. I didn't go do anything. I literally put that in my real estate account, and then the next house I flipped, I didn't max out my Home Depot credit card.
Yeah,
I just paid cash.
Yeah. Well, and that's what a lot of people don't do, right?
Correct.
When they get a nice big payday, you're like, okay, so new truck, here I come, trip to Bali, here I go, let's go.
Yep.
Instead of reinvest into the business. So let's fast forward to today. What does
Yep.
your team look like today? What does your business look like today?
So today it's a lot different. So we had, as everybody knows, it's 2025. We've had the last few years have been pretty rough on real estate. And so as the real estate market softened in my area, so we used to do about 1,200 inspections a year, and we had three inspectors working helping us out with that. And so now, because of things slowing down, I actually am just solo operator right now. It's the first time in over 10 years that I have not had employees helping me. Um, to be completely honest, John, it's a blessing. I am very, very grateful for it. I have zero stress and
Less
pressure at the moment.
headaches.
And I know as the real estate market starts to like ramp back up again, I'm like, man, we're gonna have to hire people and go through all of that all over again. And so I'm kind of at a point where it's a little easier.
Mhm.
I mean, I've been working my guts out. Like I said, I own we bought a value add property up in Pocatello, Idaho. It's a 46 plex. And
I'm
then
in
for those
Boise.
people who, what's that?
I'm in Boise, so
Oh, okay, cool. So
yeah.
yeah, you're up there.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Very cool. Um, but yeah, so that was a syndication. So I did that with a syndication. So now there's a couple of words that I think some people may not be familiar with, which is the value add and then the syndication. So a value add is any property that we can buy that's slightly distressed or heavily distressed that we can improve, right? And again, I don't know how much of this you I haven't listened to enough of your episodes to know if you guys have covered this or not. But so I purposely
Always
look
someone
for
that can hear
value
that.
adds. What's
Yeah.
that?
There's always someone that can hear it that might not know. So please,
Yep.
I love the explanation. Thank you.
Perfect. So we're always looking for a value add. So Pocatello, it's called Ridgeline Apartments. It was a value add. We've owned it now for 3 years, and it's just hit the market as far as we are going to sell it. And so now, so the other part of that big word is the syndication. So I also didn't have to buy that property myself, right? I just there's a bunch of investors. There's an investment group that I got. And you have to, those investment groups, it's funny, before I qualified for the investment groups, I hated them. And then when I got myself to the point when I qualified, now I think
Mhm.
they're awesome.
Right. Now, what do you
And
mean?
so
What do you mean when you say investment groups? Do you mean just a group of people physically investing in property? Are you talking about like masterminds? What are you talking about?
Yes, thank you. So it's a company, it's a business that is doing asset acquisition and whatnot. So the company that I'm using is Return Development, Return Properties here in northern Utah, and so they've got they're sourcing the deal, they're sourcing the financing, they're doing it all with investor money, and so they just have a whole pool of investors, and they'll pull together all this money and go buy the property, renovate the property, and then sell it. And so, or refinance, right? Then they'll refinance and pay everybody back. So that's like what Ridgeline happened is in a like 6 months time, they were able to refinance that property, give all the investors our initial investment back. So
Nice.
now I still own all my shares, but I also have my money back already. And so it's just like it was one of those I didn't have and again I kind of talked about how much you want to have your inspection team. So I'm the inspection team. I'm the guy. So that's part of how I found this group is they hired me to go look at this property. And I go through and I'm again we mentioned I'm a little bit of a hyper guy. I'm a little ADHD. I'm really good at observing details. So I can walk through these properties and make them a list of stuff, and the investors are like, "Man, we didn't know any of that." I usually get a fairly decent discount on my investments because of the stuff that I know and I look at. And so then, as I saw the property, I said, "Hey, I want to put money on this," and they were like, "We'd love to have you."
Love it.
And so
That's
that's
awesome.
kind of what started that. I've got that same group. We have a 40 unit down in Layton, Utah, that we're currently working on. And so you were asking what I'm doing today. So I'm actually liquidating my small real estate. So I've got two more duplexes that I'm going to sell off. And I want to go just big syndications, those big 40 plus units. Man, once you get into that world, that's where it's at, I feel like.
So let's kind of focus on our topic for a few minutes about the importance of having a good inspection. Why
Yeah.
is it so important?
Okay, so that's great, and that is fabulous. So the realtor, right, whether it's a commercial or a residential realtor, they're a contract negotiations expert. That if you ask them, they will not tell you they're an expert in real estate. They're an expert in contracts and negotiations,
Mhm.
which you have to have. That is very, very important. The title guy, or excuse me, not the title guy, the appraiser, right? The appraiser is an expert in values, but the appraiser is only there to protect the bank. He does not care about the buyer. He does not care about the realtor. The title company, right? They are the title. They're looking at the legal documents, the legal contract, what the county says, what all that. So at the end of the day, who is the one person who is an actual real estate expert who is actually there to represent the buyer? That's the home inspector.
Yeah.
He's literally the only guy that is there just, hey man, I'm going to come through. I'm going to check this property out. I'm going to let you know what I see. And then it's also like, now different states are different. So wherever your viewers are, the laws are different. But fortunately, you're in Idaho, and so I actually operate in Idaho and Utah. And so Utah and Idaho are unique in that there are 0 certification requirements for home inspectors. Anybody can be a home inspector. And so what you end up with is a lot of, I don't know if fraud is the right word, but you end up with a lot of guys that are not maybe doing what's best, right? They're coming out here. You mean they get paid $500 to just look at a house for a couple minutes? Like, that's awesome. Well, that's not what it is.
There's a little bit more to that.
It's a lot more than that, but a lot of the competitors are doing that. You know, when you look at some of the national franchises like Pillar to Post, they only anticipate getting 15 to 20% market share in any market that they operate in. So like it's very difficult. You know, your average home inspector is doing 100, 150 inspections a year if they're pretty good.
Right.
You know, and then for us, a company like us, where we were doing 1,200 inspections a year in a small market, I mean, it's almost unheard of. But that's my way of doing an inspection. Now, I require a big 500 credit hour home inspection certification for my employees. I took it myself. They have to, in fact, my employees, before I'll send them out to do an inspection, they have to do 50 inspections with me before I cut them free. And so like there's a lot to it. That inspection team, I mean, I had a group of investors, and again, now it's kind of comical the amount of people who I do business with. But I had a guy a few years ago flew me out to Oklahoma City to look at an 80 or a 98 unit complex, and we pulled up to turn into this place, and I mean, I basically tanked the deal from the street. I was like, "What are you under contract on this?" And they're like, "Oh, 8 million." And I'm like, this entire project is like a bulldoze and start over. Now, from the beginning of your podcast, John, we already talked about, I don't like to bulldoze stuff. I just like to rebuild stuff. But when you're looking at foundations crumbling, termite, mold, meth, all of the stuff combined, you're just like, man, you're better off to start over. We're going through these buildings, and I mean the termites, the dry rot, all the AC units, all the copper wire's been ripped out of them. And for those of you who don't know, that's a very desperate crackhead who's out there stripping copper out of an abandoned building or an empty apartment. Like, because they'll spend, I can't even imagine the amount of energy, and they'll get, $40 worth of copper wire.
Yeah, it's incredible. I've seen it a lot.
But so I tanked that deal. The investor shows up, the actual head investor of that company, and he was so grateful. He was so grateful for us to come out there and do that. And he's also a podcaster. He owns, and I'll have to look at it. It's, I'll have to remember his podcast name, but he does a real estate podcast as well, but his is catered to multifamily.
Okay.
Tate Seamer is his name, but I
think I've heard the name. I've seen the name.
Yeah. So Tate, and Tate, it's funny. That's a whole nother conversation. Tate and I have history from so many years ago, different business adventures and stuff. And so, but no, so that was that one. And then just recently, in fact, this last year, I had a different group of investors who brought me down and just into Salt Lake City to look at a 55 plex. I charged them probably $3,500 for my inspection, and they were able to negotiate $500,000 off of the property. Just based on what I found. And that was one day of me walking around that building.
That's the value of a good inspection team.
That's the value of a good inspector. In fact, that same group, John, they were doing one up in Montana, and they came down with a Cessna and picked me up, a little airplane, and flew me up there to look at the building, and then brought me home and dropped me off.
Awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah,
so
that's
cool.
the power of a good inspector. You're willing to fly to go get him to make sure that he lays eyes on your project.
And save you a lot of money. That's awesome information, Bryan. I appreciate you coming on here and sharing all this stuff. But if our folks want to get a hold of you, let's say we got some investors in Utah or Idaho that anywhere really that just want to use your inspection services or maybe just talk about it with you, how do
Yeah.
they get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out?
Very, very easily. So we are all over on the internet, carlsoninspection.com. So plus I've got all the social medias. You can go watch. There's the Carlson Inspection YouTube channel. You can actually watch videos of me doing home inspections and making lame jokes about working in the dead center of town when I stand next to a cemetery or whatever it might, raccoons in crawl spaces. Like I should be wearing an Indiana Jones outfit when I do home inspections, the kind of stuff that happens.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah, so
And
they
you
could
have a
just do
podcast.
call. And my podcast is not real estate related though, is the only reason I don't know. So my podcast is called the ADHD Express. As we already mentioned in the beginning of your show, I'm a little bit all over the place. At one point in time, John, I had a very different business that was a little bit maybe on the illicit side. And so my podcast and my book that I'm writing are more about that line of work and that lifestyle. So I made a big transition and landed, fortunately, in the real estate world.
Well, you never know what someone out there wants to hear, like to listen to, or might learn and grow from. I mean, I know a lot of investors that are ADHD. Sometimes comes with the territory. Um, Bryan, thank you again, man, for coming on here. You dropped so many nuggets, guys. I hope you guys took some good notes. I know I did.
Thank
You
you.
enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next show. Bryan,
Awesome.
thank you
Sounds
again.
good, John. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.